Pandora's Tower. Pandora's Tower was brought over to the Americas thanks to the efforts of Operation Rainfall, an initiative designed to advocate for the localization of games outside of Japan. Their three big successes included Xenoblade Chronicles, easily their greatest success with the series continuing to be brought over here to this day, The Last Story, which I am super excited to play sometime in 2018, and Pandora's Tower, a lesser-known title by Ganbarian, more known for its long-standing development of the One Piece games. Now, I knew a lot more about Xenoblade and The Last Story than I knew about Pandora's Tower, mainly due to excessive demand of Xenoblade when it came out, and the name recognition behind The Last Story, so for a lot of people, Pandora's Tower flew under the radar, despite being brought over through an effort like Operation Rainfall. Just so you know a little bit about me, I like looking at the titles that do not necessarily get the spotlight, when everybody else is looking at the new hotness. Not great for popularity, obviously, but I would like to give games that are different their fair shake. So, what is Pandora's Tower all about? For a quick summary, you experience the tale of Eren and Elena, two star-crossed lovers of rival nations who wish to be together despite their backgrounds. Elena is afflicted with a curse which slowly turns her into a monster, and the two, along with a rather plucky woman who's knowledgeable about the curse, Mavda, journey to where the curse might be lifted. Eren must journey through 12 towers to defeat 12 monsters residing inside, returning with a piece of them, and in doing so, the curse may be lifted. If the premise of this game sounds a little familiar, you're not wrong, and I'll be addressing that, so hold on. How Eren, our main character, is supposed to perform this feat is left to Mavda as well, who gives Eren a sacred chain that will bind the lovers together. As their love and affection grows, so will the power of the chain, and it is with this chain that Eren will scale each tower, defeat each monster, and retrieve what he needs to retrieve. Pandora's Tower makes effective use of this chain, and begins thoroughly teaching you about the various moves, techniques, and combat mechanics that the chain does, including binding enemies, chaining enemies together, the ability to reel in enemies, swing enemies around into other enemies, slap them against walls and other environmental hazards and objects, as well as other things. The game does do a respectable amount with the chain, and as the game goes on, you'll find yourself using the chain more often to deal with enemies than just your sword, which you can also improve as the game progresses. So that is one positive. One negative, however, is that the chain can be difficult to learn how to use in the beginning stages of the game. I was personally using my Wii U gamepad for control purposes, something I doubt that the game was prepared for. So for the first few towers I explored, I felt very stiff whenever I tried to be effective in combat, or even swing across a gap. Personal reasons, I know, but the point I'm trying to make is that you should try to play with the control options it was designed for, so primarily a Wii Remote and Nunchuck instead of like a Pro Controller or something like that. But if you commit, be prepared for a possible learning curve of what button combinations you need to know to perform certain actions. Now, in all honesty, in writing this, I guess you can call it a review, I might have done so in the title, I want to get to the gameplay stuff out of the way as soon as possible, because I feel that the truly interesting part of the game is more in the design itself. For instance, the game suffers greatly from a point of contention, and that is what this game can easily be compared to, and that is Shadow of the Colossus. You see, Shadow of the Colossus is a fantastic game, and its greatness stems a little bit from its omittance of some things other games have. The big thing that Shadow of the Colossus does not have, that Pandora's Tower has, is level design. In Shadow of the Colossus, your goal, of course, is to defeat 16 Colossi in order to save your girl, or so says the giant omnipresent demon in the temple, and the only thing standing in your way between you and the next Colossus is a small trek through a section of the world. In Pandora's Tower, you have an entire tower of enemies, puzzles, and tasks between you and the door leading to the boss's chamber. Now, multiply that by 12. There is a lot of game time spent inside of any given tower that is simply not there in Shadow of the Colossus, and I feel that that is a detriment to Pandora's Tower. But there is a lot of reasons, so I'll try to tell you why. One of Pandora's Tower's greatest strengths is its subtlety. The main mechanic of the game is trying to make sure you do not spend too much time inside of a tower at any given time, as you are on a timer. The longer you stay, and the closer you get to the timer running out, the more Elena will transform into a monster, and the less time you have to completing the tower you are currently in. As the game goes on, not only related to the timer, but also as you progress through the game and complete towers, and also talk and spend time with Elena, you may notice slight changes happening here and there when it comes to character. It might be in a cutscene, it might be in dialogue, but how Pandora's Tower communicates these subtleties is very impressive. Sometimes downright creepy and chilling. I had to mention this strength because this is something I looked forward to every time I finished a tower and returned to Elena, and looked critically for how things might have changed versus the last tower I completed. In terms of capturing my attention and engaging me into their journey, they got me. For a little while. It was not until about 40% into the game, when I had just finished the 5th tower, that I ran into the detriment I mentioned before. Up until that point, things were great. Each tower had a different feel, environment, puzzles to interact with, and were getting steadily more challenging leading up to the boss. Once I left for the 6th tower, and activated the menu for selecting my next tower, something bad happened. The next 5 towers were open to me, and I felt worried. Pandora's Tower had run into a problem I didn't think it completely recovered from. The next 40% of the game was almost the same, deciding to make the towers put into pairs, and my intrigue crashed. The reason I thought that traversing the towers was pretty alright up until that point was because they were being introduced one at a time. Each tower felt special just on that merit. Different, and that each had weight in progressing the story. Revealing 5 at once gave me the opposite feeling, that I had to complete all 5 towers in order to really get more story and progression. This is where I felt that the very thought of level design became a hindrance to Pandora's Tower compared to Shadow of the Colossus. I kept fighting with this very notion throughout the next 5 towers, knowing that the game would not work without them, as I explored similar looking towers just with slightly different puzzles and routes to take in order to unlock the boss door, so I settled on this. There was the other important part of the game that Shadow of the Colossus could never have, that is meaningful interaction and time with Elena. Aaron and Elena are bound by the sacred chain, both figuratively and as a main feature of the game. The more time you spend with Elena, finding things for her, talking with her, and giving her tasks in order to help you, such as translating documents you find in the towers, the higher their affinity with each other will be. As their adventure goes on, their relationship grows. How fast or how slow depends on your actions, resulting in special scenes between them, like having breakfast or dinner together, or just kind of looking out over their scenery. Depending on how well kept your base of operations is, other scenes can occur as well. Their relationship is honestly very sweet, and comes from something pure and is tested greatly by the curse. The further you get into the towers, the more likely, subconsciously, that you don't want Elena to begin turning into a monster again. You begin caring for her, as the voice actress for Elena does a great job conveying so much emotion in her delivery.
If I ever hurt you, Aaron, No. Forget it. Forget I ever said anything.
Therefore, I dare you, after doing a couple towers, to let the timer almost run out and try talking to her then. See how bad you feel. I also dare you to see about making Elena hate you, and see how you like the ending you get, because the ending you get depends on how high your affinity is. If you want to get the best ending, max that meter out. If you want the ending to be premature, make her hate you. I'd be surprised if something like Pandora's Tower ever comes out again. It takes a few risks in some areas, but comes out swinging, bringing together a story about a strong relationship overcoming the harshest of ordeals, along with some unique gameplay leading to some pretty clever boss fights in some cases, all set in a world that is more fleshed out than you might think. So while the Shadow of the Colossus comparison may exist, which can definitely hamper some of the enjoyment you can get out of Pandora's Tower, I would strongly give this game a chance, and maybe give you an excuse to dust off your Wii or Wii U. Hopefully you enjoyed this video on Pandora's Tower. I'm enjoying making and scripting this kind of video to talk about games you might not have heard about, and I want to shed more light on other games as well. For instance, I did a review of Project Cross Zone as well that you might also be interested in checking out. So if you enjoyed this video, clicking a button or two is hard, I know, but just remember to come back every so often to see if I have more videos up. My schedule for videos releasing is inconsistent and my quality is questionable at best, so I'll leave it in your hands whether or not to subscribe or like or whatever. I'll keep trying with new things and continuing to improve. That's all I can do. Take care, everyone.